I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who shows up to Christmas with a trunk full of gifts, only to be treated like the forgotten mailman. But here we are. My name's Mark, I'm 35, and until recently, I was the guy who kept the lights on in a house I didn't even live in. Technically, it was my sister's house, or at least, that's what she told everyone. To them, she was the hard-working single mom who clawed her way into a suburban four-bedroom dream. But to the bank, and more importantly, to me, I was the name on the mortgage. She was the one who moved in after her divorce, with her 2 kids and a sob story about starting over. And I, being the fool with a decent job and a bleeding heart, offered to help her get back on her feet. That was 5 years ago. In the beginning, I didn't mind. She was my sister, you know? Family. And watching her struggle with daycare, grocery bills, and deadbeat child support payments, I figured it was the least I could do. I bought the house in my name, let her live in it rent-free, and paid the mortgage every month like clockwork. She promised she'd take over once she was financially stable. We even pinky swore over a pizza box one night. I still remember the grease stain near the signature line when I drew up the informal agreement, just a placeholder until she could refinance. But the months turned into years, and her promises turned into deflections. Next tax season. After I pay off the car. Once the kids are in school. Always another reason. Still, I didn't push. I figured pushing made me the bad guy, and in our family, I was always the nice one. Not the golden child, that was Emma. Emma could light the curtains on fire, and my mom would call it creative. But I was dependable. Boring. The one who filled in the gaps when everyone else fell short. Need someone to fix the fence? Call Mark. Car won't start? Ask Mark. Christmas party? Mark will bring the food and the folding chairs. This year, I even wrapped the presents myself. Thoughtful ones, too, none of that regifted candle nonsense. I got her son the Lego set he'd been begging for since July, her daughter a Kindle with preloaded books I curated myself. And Emma? A new espresso machine. Fancy. She loves her morning coffee and made some comment in October about the one she had being on its last legs. I stored it all in my trunk, triple-checked the bows, then drove across town through a snowstorm to be there by noon. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed extra cars. Cousins. Friends of friends. Probably her ex-husband's sister too. Emma always did like keeping things awkward. I knocked and let myself in, like always. The front room was full of people, lights twinkling, someone already carving the ham. Emma was standing by the tree in a deep green sweater, a glass of wine in one hand and her phone in the other. She looked up, blinked like I was a glitch in her system, and then smiled. But it wasn't the kind of smile you get when someone's glad you're there. It was small. Tight. "Oh," she said, brushing past me to grab something off the counter. "Hey, didn't realize you were coming." That stung. We always did Christmas together. Every year since we were kids. Even after Dad passed, even after she moved into the house, I made sure of it. She didn't invite me this year, sure, but I assumed that was just oversight. Families get busy, right? "I brought gifts," I said, holding up the bags in my hand. "Thought I'd drop them off and say hi." She smiled again, this time wider, almost rehearsed. "That's sweet of you," she said, glancing toward the kitchen. Then, louder, to no one in particular. "This year's just for real family, though." The words hit me like a sucker punch. At first, I thought I misheard. Then I looked around the room. No one else reacted. No gasps. No awkward silences. Just chatter and laughter. I stood there, gifts in hand, like the kid picked last in gym class. Emma turned to walk away, and I started toward the door. My feet felt heavier with every step. I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted to leave with my dignity intact. But then, just as I reached for the doorknob, I heard it, her voice, casual and mocking, just loud enough to cut through the noise. "He thinks paying the mortgage gets him a seat." Laughter followed. Not loud, but unmistakable. I froze. In that moment, I didn't feel like the dependable brother, or the nice one, or the fool with a credit score in the 800s. I felt invisible. Used. Stupid. I walked to my car in silence. Sat in the driver's seat for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel like it might anchor me to something real. Then I popped the trunk, took out the gifts, and left them on the porch. No note. No name tags. Just a silent farewell to a role I didn't sign up for. By the time I got home, I wasn't angry. I was calm. And that scared me more. Because calm meant I had made a decision. A quiet, firm one. I opened my laptop. Pulled up the deed. The house was in my name, and the payments had been current because of me. Emma had no idea how the system worked. She never asked. Never cared. As far as she was concerned, that house was hers. Emotionally, maybe. Legally? Not even close. I called a lawyer. Told him what I wanted. He didn't even blink. "You're the legal owner?" he asked. "Yeah." "Okay. Let's transfer it." We started the paperwork that night. I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend. I wanted it to be done before the first apology text came in, if one ever did. I had no idea how she'd react. Maybe she'd pretend it was a joke. Maybe she'd cry. Or maybe she'd go full soap opera and accuse me of betrayal. But one thing was certain, come morning, the house would no longer be hers. And she'd find out the second her key didn't work. The paperwork didn't take long. That's the funny thing about owning something on paper. You don't need anyone's permission to reclaim what's already yours. The lawyer drew up a notice of eviction with 30 days grace, just to keep things clean. I didn't want to throw the kids out into the snow, no matter how much their mother deserved it. But I wasn't going to keep burning my paycheck to play the villain in her holiday narrative either. Still, I knew she wouldn't take it well. Emma didn't handle boundaries. She liked being the center of gravity, pulling everyone into her orbit with emotional debt and half-truths. The moment you stepped back, you became the villain. I'd watched it happen to our cousin Darren when he refused to co-sign on her second car loan. She told the entire family he abandoned her during her lowest point, conveniently skipping the part where he'd already paid her insurance for 2 years straight. So, I waited. For 5 days, nothing happened. No calls. No texts. Not even a thank you message for the gifts I left on the porch. But I wasn't surprised. Emma only reached out when she needed something. And apparently, this Christmas, she didn't need me. Yet, on the 6th day, I got a text. Just one line. "Did something weird happen with the bank?" I didn't reply. I figured she was logging in to check the mortgage portal for the first time in months and finally noticed my name next to everything: payments, title, homeowner's insurance. I'd left the account open to her for years, but she never cared enough to look. I guess the wine and social media kept her busy. Then came the second text. "Mark? Why is there a new notice on the door?" I'd had the formal eviction posted that morning. 30 days. Plenty of time for her to figure out a plan. But I'd also taken one extra step, something subtle, something passive-aggressive in that petty older brother kind of way. I suspended the smart lock system. It was tied to my email, my credit card. All I had to do was freeze the subscription, and the keypad entry would revert to manual key access. She hadn't used a physical key in years. I knew that because I'd seen her brag on Facebook once about how she never carried keys like a peasant. That night, the calls started. First a few, then a dozen. By midnight, I had 47 missed calls and 3 voicemails, each more frantic than the last. The first was her pretending everything was fine. "Hey, so there's a weird thing on the door and I figured it's just a glitch or whatever. Call me when you get this." The second was sharper. "Seriously, Mark? If this is some kind of joke, it's not funny. The kids are freaked out." The third one, that one was quieter. More dangerous. "You're going to regret this." That was all she said. Just that one sentence. No yelling. No crying. Just the kind of quiet threat only family knows how to deliver, soft and cold, like a knife wrapped in velvet. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was scared. I wasn't. But because for the first time, I realized I was finally done. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Just done. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. My phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't look. Around 10 a.m., I got a call from Mom. She never calls me. "Mark," she said, "what's going on with your sister?" I paused. "What do you mean?" "She says you're trying to kick her and the kids out." "Is this about Christmas?" I could hear the disappointment loaded in her tone, like I was the one who'd thrown a fit over holiday decorations and made things awkward. Not the one who'd been excluded from his own family gathering. Not the one who'd paid off 73 mortgage payments without a single thank you. I wanted to explain. I really did. But the second I opened my mouth, Mom cut in. "I mean, you have been acting kind of distant lately. And Emma told me you said something really cruel about the kids." I hung up. Not angrily. Just quietly. I stared at the wall for a long moment and let it all settle. This was what it always came down to. Emma had the tears. I had the receipts. And somehow, the tears always won. But not this time. That evening, Emma drove across town and showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, hair pulled back, jacket half-zipped, holding her phone like a lawyer holding evidence. She knocked once. Twice. Then she yelled through the door. "You can't do this. You can't just evict me. This is my house. I live there. My kids go to school in that neighborhood. I didn't answer. Just turned up the TV and waited until her footsteps faded down the hallway. 3 days passed. Then she did what she always does when she's out of moves. She pulled in the rest of the family. Texts came in from my aunt, my cousin in Michigan, even my niece, who's 12 and doesn't know a mortgage from a mall pretzel. Hey, Uncle Mark. Mom says we're going to be homeless. Can we come stay with you? Emma was spinning her usual magic, weaponizing pity like a seasoned general. She told everyone I was mad about not getting invited to dinner and that I'd retaliated by stealing her house. She didn't mention the 5 years of free rent or the espresso machine I never got a thank you for. By the end of the week, she started going live on Facebook. I kid you not. Tears. Sobbing. Crocodile sniffles. Some people just don't value family, she said in one of them, dabbing her eyes while soft piano music played in the background. They forget who was there for them when they had no one. I nearly choked on my coffee when I saw it. Who was there for me? Lady, I was the one who paid the property taxes when you were in Cabo last spring. But I didn't comment. I didn't argue. I didn't even defend myself. Because the clock was ticking. She had 30 days. And every one of them was a countdown. On day 12, she left a voicemail pretending nothing had happened. Hey, just wanted to talk. You know? Maybe we both overreacted. The kids miss you. We all do. Let's have dinner or something. Just us. I didn't respond. On day 13, a mutual friend from high school messaged me with a screenshot of Emma's latest Facebook post. It was a grainy picture of her standing on the porch next to the eviction notice still taped to the door, with a caption that read, "Imagine thinking this makes you the bigger person." The comments section was split right down the middle, half sympathy, half suspicion. Some of the old crowd knew me well enough to side with caution. Didn't Mark buy that house? One guy commented. I remember when he posted about it a few years back. That thread disappeared within minutes. She was managing her image like a press secretary, deleting, curating, posting new things that made her look like a warrior mom fighting against evil bureaucracy. It was all carefully staged, all performative. One day, she posted a picture of her kids doing homework on the floor with the caption, "We're staying strong." Another day, she took a photo of her car parked in the driveway with a passive-aggressive tag. Some people forget where they come from. I watched it all like it was a bad reality show, and I already knew the finale. But what bothered me wasn't the lies. I'd come to expect those from Emma. What bothered me was how effortlessly people believed her. How easily you could rewrite the past if you just had enough crying selfies and vague quotes about betrayal. No one asked about the bank records. No one saw the receipts. No one cared about the years I kept the roof over her head while she found herself in yoga retreats and candle-making classes. It was around that time I started keeping a folder. Just for myself. Screenshots. Bank transfers. Texts. Photos. Emails. Not to expose her. Not yet. But because I needed proof for me. To remind myself that I wasn't crazy. That I didn't invent the last 5 years. That I wasn't the villain in the movie playing on her social media feed. Then came day 16. It was a Friday. I had just gotten home from work, threw off my shoes, and settled into the couch when my building's intercom buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Then a third time. I walked over and pressed the button. Yes, it's me, she said. Her voice was too calm. That made me nervous. I'm not doing this, Emma. Just open the door. I'm not doing this. She sighed. Okay. Then I'll wait out here. Hope your neighbors don't mind. And she did. She stood in the lobby for almost an hour. I could see her through the security cam feed on my phone, arms crossed, pacing in short little loops like a caged animal. Occasionally looking up, daring the camera to blink. She had that same look she used to give Mom when she was grounded as a teenager. That you will break before I do look. But I didn't. Eventually, she left. Later that night, I got a text. No words. Just a photo. It was the espresso machine I bought her. Smashed on the driveway. The next morning, I found out she had changed the Wi-Fi name in the house to Mark is a heartless troll and disconnected the Nest thermostat. She didn't have access to the app, of course, but I guess she figured out which breaker controlled the router and decided to make a statement. I didn't flinch. I let it ride. On day 21, she posted a video of her kids sitting on their front steps with backpacks on, looking confused and sad. Caption: The countdown begins. #homeless by Christmas. The thing that killed me wasn't that she filmed it. It was that she made them pose. I could tell. The boy kept glancing at the camera, waiting for the cue to look solemn. The girl was biting her lip like she wanted to ask when they were allowed to smile again. It was a performance, one they didn't understand. And maybe that's what finally broke something in me. Not pity, resolve. I called my lawyer and asked what more I needed to do to make sure the transition went clean. He told me everything was filed. The final notice would be posted in 5 days. After that, she had a week to vacate. Can she stall it? I asked. Only if she files a formal dispute or tries to claim tenancy under some loophole. But given the fact that you own the property and she pays no rent or utilities, no. She doesn't have legal grounds. So I waited. And on day 27, I got the call from her new boyfriend. I didn't even know she was dating anyone. But suddenly, here he was, calling me at 11:37 p.m. She told me everything, he said, his voice heavy with self-righteousness. And honestly, man to man, you're acting like a real piece of work. I almost laughed. Man to man. She's your sister, dude. Those kids look up to you. And you're really gonna make them move right before the holidays. I paused. I gave her 5 years, I said. You've known her 5 weeks. There was silence on the other end. Then, you'll regret this. Same threat. Different voice. The next day, the police were called. But not by me. Emma had filed a wellness check on me, claiming she was worried about my mental health and that I'd been making erratic decisions. I let the officers in, showed them the eviction paperwork, the mortgage records, the messages. They left apologetically. She said you'd been threatening her, one officer said, clearly uncomfortable. I showed him the texts, the voicemail, the smashed espresso machine. He nodded and left. By now, I was used to the pattern. Lie, deflect, escalate. What she didn't realize was that I was done playing defense. In 3 days, the final notice would go up. And in 5, she'd be out. It was a Tuesday morning, day 30. Overcast sky. Light rain. I stood in the parking lot across the street from the house I'd paid for and watched the process unfold through the windshield of my car, heat on low, coffee in hand. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't want her to see me and start performing again. Emma was a spotlight addict. Even in crisis, she needed an audience. The sheriff's deputy was professional, calm, and, thankfully, not interested in drama. He knocked twice, waited, then called it in. Subject is present, I heard faintly through the cracked window. Serving final notice. Emma answered the door in her pink robe and thick eyeliner like it was any other day. I saw her freeze. Say something with her hands waving in that dramatic way of hers. Then, like clockwork, the boyfriend stepped out from behind her, still shirtless. They tried to stall, tried to reason, tried to twist the narrative one last time. But the law doesn't run on emotions. It runs on paper. And all the paper said the same thing. The house wasn't hers. Never was. The deputy gave her 48 hours to vacate. 2 days. No more extensions. No more calls to mom. No more, I didn't know, or he promised me. Just 2 days to gather her things and leave. I didn't go over. I didn't wave. I just finished my coffee and drove off. That night, my phone didn't buzz once. No threats. No apologies. Just silence. The next afternoon, I got a message from a mutual cousin, Melissa, who'd always been the Switzerland of the family. Hey, just wanted to say, I know what you did was hard, but you were right. I'm sorry for not saying something sooner. I stared at that message longer than I expected. Not because it changed anything, but because it was the first time, the very first time, someone acknowledged that maybe I wasn't the villain in this story. Then came the hard part, actually taking back the house. The eviction window ended on Thursday morning. I took the day off work, called the locksmith, and met him in the driveway at 10 a.m. Emma and her boyfriend were already gone. No confrontation. No tears. Just a dent in the garage door, cigarette butts on the porch, and a recycling bin overflowing with wine bottles and frozen pizza boxes. Inside? Chaos. The house was trashed. Furniture overturned. Walls scuffed. The kids' rooms looked like they'd been evacuated in a rush, drawers pulled out, clothes still hanging halfway from hangers. She took the appliances I bought, left behind broken ones. The espresso machine, of course, was long gone. I half expected a hole in the wall where the TV used to be, but no, she left that. Probably because it was mine, or because it was bolted down and she didn't want to deal with the hassle. But the worst part? The note, taped to the fridge, written in marker on a crumpled paper plate. Congrats. Hope it was worth it. No signature. No heart. Just spite, etched in Sharpa like a parting curse. I didn't touch it. Not at first. I just stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by dust and stained countertops, and tried to remember what the place looked like when I bought it. Before the screaming matches. Before the manipulation. Before I became a villain for setting a boundary. It took me a few weeks to clean it up. I paid for repairs, replaced what was broken, and threw out anything that smelled like resentment. Which, as it turns out, was most of the furniture. A neighbor dropped by while I was scrubbing the baseboards and said, "Glad to see someone finally taking care of the place again." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "Me too." I didn't move in right away. I wasn't sure if I wanted to. The house felt heavy, like it still echoed with old arguments and unspoken debts. But it was mine. Really mine. And something about that mattered more than I expected. Mom didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. Then, like nothing happened, she sent me a message about a family barbecue. No apology. No explanation. Just a casual, "Are you bringing your famous potato salad?" I replied, "Not this year." She left me on read. Emma, for her part, went quiet. Deleted her Facebook for a bit. Then came back with a new profile full of inspirational quotes about growth and cutting out toxic people. I didn't follow her. I didn't care to. But I heard from Melissa that she moved in with her boyfriend, then his mom, then a new place across town. Rumor was she was trying to start a parenting blog. You'd think she'd have changed after all that. Learned something. Reflected. But the truth is, some people don't grow. They just get better at playing the same role. A few months later, I got a letter from the county. It was the new property tax bill cut in half. Apparently, her boyfriend had filed some paperwork claiming tenancy during their time there, but it got denied. And because Emma never paid a cent in 5 years, the revised value came back lower than expected. Silver linings, I guess. Eventually, I did move in. Painted the walls. Replaced the carpet. Ripped out the old curtains she'd left behind, still dusty with perfume and maybe a bit of desperation. It took time. More than I thought. But slowly, the house stopped feeling like hers. It started to feel like peace. Like a reset. One day, I found the old box of holiday decorations she left behind. Most of it was broken or tangled. But at the bottom, beneath the garland and cracked ornaments, was a tiny plastic angel. Cheap. Dollar store kind. She'd used it every year since the kids were toddlers. I held it for a while, turning it over in my hand, remembering all the times I'd been the one to unpack it, place it carefully on the tree, smile through gritted teeth as she made snide comments about my boring life. Then I stood up, walked outside, and tossed it in the trash. I didn't need souvenirs from people who only remembered me when they needed something. And that Christmas, I hosted. Not a big gathering. Just a few close friends. People who'd stuck around through the mess. We cooked, laughed, watched old movies. And when it came time to decorate the tree, I placed a brand new star on top. One I picked out for myself. No ghosts. No guilt. Just light. And for the first time in years, it actually felt like home.